anyone who's ever attempted to lose weight is struggling to lose weight. There is no easy way to do it. So you're not alone there. Not to mention the fact that if you actually try to change the shape of your body, and in many cases losing weight, almost everyone will be against you. Friends, family, everybody. You'll be. We've said this before, but it's worth saying again. You'll be surprised at how few people are supporting you, like including the people in your house, maybe even your own spouse.
Bringing you a reasoned approach to health and fitness. This is the Phi Life Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Phi Life Podcast. I'm John Barbin. With me is Brad Pilon. And I think today we're going to talk about the big elephant in the room for all of diet and fitness and all of getting in shape and losing weight and all that stuff. And it's the general concept of, for fat loss, you have to somehow eat less total calories.
Right.
And everyone who's ever tried a diet, anyone who's ever effectively stripped off body fat knows that that's how they did it. And it's hard. If you don't have the assistance, I guess, in modern times of GLP-1 receptor agonist drug like an Ozempic, which is very, very new. But up until literally the last 5 years, everyone who ever lost weight just reduced calories and put up with it. And that was it. And however they arrived there, fine. It was whatever it took. That's how you had to do it. I remember coaching people on the simplest way to think about it is you got to go to bed hungry every night. And that's kind of your cue that you're getting there.
Yep.
If you
it
go
doesn't
to bed,
matter if you did that via a guy ate zero carbs, awesome. Zero fat, sure, right? Or what most fitness people do is, I just lived off of protein and just so much caffeine that it blunted my appetite. You're like, okay, but you had to do whatever you did to make that happen. To your point, right?
Right.
Like
yeah. And if you couldn't, and that's hard. It's like it's the hardest thing to do in diet and fitness because everyone's looking for a solution to weight loss. And as we know, a lot of people put it back on. It's all the research suggests, the clinical research will suggest basically everyone's going to put it back on. Very few people keep it off. Anyone who's gone through that experience, if they haven't put it all back on, it's slowly crept back on over time, maybe not all of it, but they know how hard it was. And they know what it's like when you stop that dedicated brute force willpower effort, what it's like when you just turn that effort off. And that effort can only be applied for a few months a year at that degree. You just can't do it all year long. You can't decide, I'm going to slowly lose weight for 12 months. Impossible. No one's ever done that ever. So this seems to be missing from every health and fitness expert's recommendation is, okay, well, you lose weight. You're like, okay, how do you do that? Oh, just reduce calories. Okay. And they skip it. That's it.
and
They
you
don't
go, how do you do that? And they'd be like, I don't
They just say that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But that's the crux of everything. Like if you can't do that, all the rest of what they say doesn't matter. And I was following along with, again, I sound like I'm ripping on Peter Attia, but one of his course, and it's really well laid out. He's got all the metrics you're supposed to measure. And again, I followed his podcast. That's how I found the lung cancer. So I kind of always feel like I owe it to what he put online that got me, got the cancer out of me. But I was following along with this course. And then when it gets to the part about reducing body weight, he just says eat less and kind of leaves it at that. And it's like, oh, you can do calorie restriction. So just eat less. You can do nutrient restriction. So you can, and he's talked about this on his podcast.
Eat
This
less
isn't
carbs.
anything. So pick a nutrient and eat less of it, which is easily it's carbs, maybe sometimes fat, but for most people, carbs will be most effective. Or time restriction, just fast, intermittent fast.
Yeah.
But all three of those things, and it's just like, okay, choose whichever one fits for you and moving on. I'm like, most people, that's it. Most people can never do that. Like 99% of people can't get past that stage, but he doesn't really say how to actually accomplish that unless you have just iron willpower, like maybe he does. Clearly, he's a hyper functional, hyper successful.
Yeah.
He probably can just pick which one he wants to do, then run the test again next year, and then run the test next year like perfectly and decide, oh, for me, this one worked best. But he's got that kind of willpower, determination. Nobody gets that successful who doesn't have that kind of drive. Most people can't just do that.
baseball. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also inside. Like, so, when you say move more, eat less, it's great advice, but it's useless advice if you don't actually know how to do that. So that would be someone asks someone who's really well versed in financial stuff. And you're like, hey, I really want to retire early. And the person's like, oh, all you have to do is invest 20% of your income and you're going to be great in a couple of years. Like, awesome. You get home and you're like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to, what do you mean by invest? Who do I talk to? How do I move the money?
Mm.
Into what? I don't understand. An example
Yeah.
that's a little embarrassing, but I'm obviously not the most athletic guy at times, right? Like I'm not a skilled athlete. And someone was, might have been you actually. Yeah, because it was pretty tricky. So it's probably you telling me how to hit a baseball. And they're talking about like all you have to do is like shift your weight, right? Like from this leg to this leg. And I remember thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I don't understand. You think you're saying the most simple thing in the world, like just shift your body weight. And I'm
Mm.
like stand on this leg and then stand on that leg. I don't understand. And so something as simple as okay, just find a way to eat less. It makes perfect sense for someone whose entire livelihood is based around health nutrition. It's something you think about every single day, you read about every single day, you have an advanced degree in. That makes perfect sense. And in fact, just by saying it in your mind map, you're already laying out step by step ways to do that. But
Mhm.
for the average person who's like, yeah, thanks, I get it. How? And that's where we
Right.
lose vast majority of the population whenever we give this kind of advice, because that we're forgetting the how that's so obvious to us is intuitive to the other person is as inside baseball as me trying to rebuild the car engine. It's just not happening, right? Like it's
Right.
yeah.
Right. And it's so even the people who seem to have a big following online, they never explain how to accomplish that. It's just do that. Pick one of those three things and do that. But
Yeah.
we already know nobody can actually do that. Not for more than a couple of months, and it's never going to be sustainable. So it's the real big elephant in the room here that it's difficult. People try to slice it up every which way possible. They do their volumetrics, so they eat bigger food that takes up more space. They're trying to mimic the idea of feeling full but on less calories. They're, meal timing, whatever it is. Everything has been tried, and it the idea that there's this clever combination that's going to make it easy for you, that's not true. It's always going to be effort. You're just going to have to find what's the least painful, but we aren't hardwired to go to bed hungry. Like that
No, and you
is
got to find a groove, right? And you can just get
yeah.
out of that groove. I find, for instance, sometimes for me, that groove is just some foods have to disappear because I can't do little bits of that food. Once that
Mhm.
flavor's there, that flavor's in, right? But if you look, I mean, how many books back here are 300 pages of cool theory and story that end in the last 3 pages of being like, and this is why you have to eat less or eat less carbs or eat less fat. Like it just comes down
Mhm.
to that answer over and over again. But the first 350 pages of the book are the fun, cool reasons why,
Right.
not the when in reality to be truly, truly useful. The first page of that book should be, hey, eat less. And then the next 300 pages should be, and here's are multiple different ways to accomplish that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you almost have to cycle through the different ways to keep it fresh. That
Yeah.
that'd be a good book.
Yeah.
I should write that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. So I guess this is just a bit of a reality check. If you're struggling to lose weight, it's understandable because it's the hardest thing to do.
Everybody is. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone who's ever attempted to lose weight is struggling to lose weight. There is no easy way to do it. So you're not alone there. Not to mention the fact that if you actually try to change the shape of your body, and in many cases losing weight, almost everyone will be against you. Friends, family, everybody. You'll be. We've said this before, but it's worth saying again. You'll be surprised at how few people are supporting you, like including the people in your
Oh
house,
yeah. Yeah.
maybe even your own spouse. I've said this story before, but I'll say it again. I've had coaching clients whose own spouse was sabotaging them because they just didn't want to see them pass them, get in better shape than them, accuse them of like having an affair because why are you getting in shape?
Right.
So again, expect all of that to happen if you're taking a real shot at weight loss. and don't expect anyone to join the journey with you. So, which makes it even harder. Like, it's like the hardest thing to do because nobody else is doing it. And the people closest to you might very well sabotage it for their own insecurity, or here's an even, I don't know if it's sinister, but it's something to be on the lookout for. It might not be a direct sabotage, but somebody who kind of like your mom just accepts you as you are and maybe doesn't have the heart to say, oh, maybe you should probably do something about your health or start thinking about getting in shape. First of all, if they aren't doing it, they're going to feel kind of hypocritical or not like it's their place to tell you what to do with your body, even if it's good advice and it actually is promoting your own health. It's hard to hear that from somebody who's not doing it themselves. They're just going to come across as, yeah, say as I do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
So you're not going to listen to that. And on top of that, someone who actually cares about you might not feel like it's their place to ask you to change, and the kind of loving thing to do is just accept you as you are, even though maybe they can sense you want to do a change, but you need some kind of support to change, but they don't feel it's their place to push you, or at least sort of nudge you in the direction they can sense you kind of want to go. So that can hold you back too. It's almost like the people around you setting the bar too low for you. And even though you want something different, they're not going to act towards you as if you're not a good enough person for them to love or be friends with, or you know what I mean? Like, you're good enough as you are. Like, I love you as you are. You don't need to change. Yet in your head, you're like, yeah, but I don't think it's probably not healthy. I probably should change. But that's hard to do when the people around you are like, no, you're fine. You're fine. Just have another drink, or, whatever. Just have some cake with us. And it's just those little moments where instead of nudging you the right direction, they'll just like, no, you're fine. We love you as you are. And you're like, okay, yeah, but I want you to love me, but as I'm changing too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's basically everything in your life, all the people in your life are going to likely be a force against losing weight, never for losing weight. And I've also said this in another podcast, but worth repeating. Can you even picture a situation where you're the only one in your life not losing weight? Like, you're the odd man out losing weight? Doesn't happen.
Right.
If you're trying to get in shape and not even just working out, first of all, you're usually the odd man out if you go to a gym, because nobody goes to the gym. And if you happen to be around more than even like one other person in your regular life that works out, that's rare. It's rare that you have 4 or 5 or 6 people in your life that you interact with on a daily basis that also go to the gym regularly, if you're the gym goer. Save for working at a place like me and Brad worked at, where everybody worked out at the gym in the place because we sold fitness supplements. But other than that, you're almost never going to find a situation where all the people in your life also work out. No. So in that case, you're already alone against the grain. And then if you try to lose weight, I'd say out of all the people in the gym, some infinitesimally small amount of them attempt to and actually successfully lose weight. So now you're talking an even smaller amount of people you'll ever encounter who are actively losing weight at the same time you are. Doesn't mean other people haven't tried to, but there's a difference between being around people who go to the gym regularly, the same as you, and then people who are actively trying to lose weight at the same time you are.
Right.
So you're going to feel alone in this all the time, especially when you're trying to lose weight. So it's just really hard. And if the answer is eat less, but nobody else is eating less and no one else cares, it's next to impossible to get it done effectively. Again, it's why we arrived at fasting. The one simple thing to do is just remove yourself from the whole situation for a day. Like, we couldn't really come up with something simpler than that. But yeah, it's really, really hard. And it's why all the diet and fitness podcasts and advice, everything you hear online, no one's talking about the real thing that matters, and that's eating less, and because it's so freaking hard to do.
And well, it's hard, unenjoyable, counterintuitive. Like, there's so much going on there, right? And then it's weird, most people going to bed that night can see the intense value the next day of just eating less and getting in shape. And the next day rolls around and you do a quick weigh in your head and you're like, no, I want breakfast. I want breakfast. Right. And it's that split second decision making is very difficult to override sometimes. When you get into the habit of controlling everything, it gets a bit easier for a while. But starting it off and just sort of overriding those other habits is very difficult, especially the more ingrained they are, right? So, and then we won't even on this podcast touch on like drinking and alcohol, but that's just a beautiful way to derail the whole thing. So,
Oh, I'm going to touch on it. That's
yeah.
if you think you're losing weight and you continue drinking, you have zero chance. Like
Yep.
absolutely
And
no
oh my
chance.
God, stop, because we do this all the time because someone's going to comment with the thought experiment. Okay, so let's say I'm only having 900 calories, but 200 of them are from a glass of wine. The rest of it is from high protein food. Why wouldn't? I'm like, yeah, but you're not. I hate those thought experiments because that's not what's happening. You're going out with buddies or you're having 2 or 3 glasses of wine. It just that thought experiment is so irrelevant compared to what's actually going on. So don't do it. I know you want to. Someone's gonna post it. But in general, it's the one thing holding everybody back. And we both have a friend who got in shape for a fitness contest, and the only thing he changed was he stopped drinking for 2 months. So
Yep.
and that so if that's how powerful that is, then maybe do that instead of trying to argue different ways where you should be allowed to have 2 or 3 or 4 glasses of wine every night.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
can't give up alcohol for 2 or 3 months, you're utterly not serious. You're just not serious about losing weight at all. Like you just don't care. That's just a full stop. If you think you can pull off what Brad said, like
Yeah.
I don't know, 12, 1300 calories with some wine, knock yourself out, try. I've never seen anyone do it, but by the numbers, it should theoretically work. It's still going to be difficult because the alcohol throws a monkey wrench into how your body burns fat anyways. So you're just making it even harder. But let us know if you've successfully done it and you're being honest and it actually worked. Let us know. But I've actually never seen it happen that way. Anybody I know who's ever lost weight just understands you have to get rid of alcohol for the time that you're losing weight.
Yeah.
Like even people using really powerful drugs like Ozempic still have to get rid of the alcohol, because when you put the alcohol in, your physiology is in a non-fat burning state while it's detoxing the alcohol. And for every drink you put in, the way to think of it is that's a number of hours now your body's incapable of accessing fat stores. So every time you drink, that's what you're doing. So you're putting the ultimate barrier to fat loss into your system when you have alcohol. So again, if you're serious about weight loss, the first thing that has to go is alcohol. And if you're not,
I do love the fact that people will die hard, a certain entire macronutrient like carbohydrates has to be completely eliminated from your diet to lose weight. But then you're like, yeah, and maybe not the diluted poison that's alcohol. They're like, no, that can stay. It's such a weird take, but yeah, people defend it.
well, it doesn't have to go forever. It's just if you're serious about losing weight, it has to go for some amount of time during that weight loss. So I don't know. I'm sure I might offend people here. I don't drink. I'm pretty turned off when I'm faced with almost anybody who is drinking. Past experiences working as a doorman and being around various people who that just really, I just can't handle it anymore. Being forced to be in a room of drunk people and then throwing them out. And I just lost my ability to handle anyone who's drinking, especially because I was sober the whole time. So it's just, I just can't handle it anymore. Also, when at some point I couldn't handle alcohol either, a couple of drinks would give me a hangover in the moment, without feeling good or not having the enjoyable night first, then the hangover. I just got a hangover it got to the point where this much of a beer. I think I might be allergic at that point.
Right.
I don't think you were there the night it happened. It was one New Year's decades ago, just sitting around with everybody, just sipping a drink and just a splitting headache. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but this feels like the worst hangover of my life. And I might've had 3 drinks in 4 hours, which shouldn't be happening. And ever since then, I've been terrified of having a drink, and it kept happening every single time I could only get a few sips into a drink. So I don't know if you can evolve. I haven't done enough research. I don't know if you can.
I think you can. I think
just become intolerant, but that happened to me as well. So not only have I difficulty being around anyone drinking, but it feels completely lousy if any alcohol's in my system. So to me, I'm quite biased. To me, it just seems so easy to not drink. But
right.
I guess for some people, it's a massive challenge. And like, I get it if it's part of how you live your life, but just know that that's the thing holding back weight loss 100% if you haven't even considered cutting it out for any length of time.
Yeah. And again, we're not saying go completely abstinent for the rest of your life, but it will make the weight loss process infinitely easier.
Mhm.
Not more enjoyable, but infinitely easier.
Well, it's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
It never was. It's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the idea that you can enjoy weight loss, or there's again, some of what I read, and they're insinuating there's the right healthy way to weight loss that's utterly satisfying, and it's just the way you're going to feel good, and that's just how you're going to eat for the rest of your life. That's not true. The process of losing weight is one state, and then maintaining the weight is a different state, because now you're back up to like caloric maintenance.
Yeah.
And this idea of eating healthy, or completely switching what you eat for the sense of satisfaction, that's something else as well. Like
Yeah.
you can eat the same food you're eating now and less of it and lose weight. You can change the food you're eating and have to create a caloric deficit and lose weight.
Yep.
Then on the other side of that, you can bring your calories back up to maintenance with the food you used to eat, or with some completely new mix of food, and have a different sensation there too. Like, all of those are different things. And I see online a lot of people trying to suggest there's one correct way to eat that doesn't require ever paying attention to total calories, never have to think about the total calories, and you'll just naturally fall into this pattern of eating.
Oh, yeah.
Just naturally eat less. That's complete nonsense. No one naturally eats less than they need. Like, you kind of always eat. Your hunger satiety system is designed for you to eat as much as you expend in a day. For you to lose weight, you have to go to bed hungry. That's just full stop. That's how it's going to feel. So there's no natural way to do that. So, and you can change your diet to the point where you have a big dump of water and how much sort of bloat you're storing. But for any meaningful weight loss, more than a few pounds of bloat, maybe a bit of fat, you're not dropping 20 or 30 pounds just because you changed what you ate, and you're just naturally, because that would just mean you're naturally under eating all the time.
Right.
So that's not, no one's going to naturally undereat. You're going to maybe eat to maintenance, but not less than you need. Otherwise, you just naturally waste away for the rest of your life. That doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah, the concept of just eating in a certain way that allows you just to lose weight until there's nothing left is a bit of an odd thought process.
No. And like, have you or I ever seen anyone like, oh, I just sort of switched what I ate, and I naturally just 30 pounds later, I was like, oh, I just arrived 30, like, with no thought to the total calories. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's happened, somebody write in, but I don't see, there's no reason to think mechanistically that could even happen.
The only time people lose weight in that way, when we're talking a large enough weight gain, so a weight loss of 20 plus pounds by accident, they moved. Like, completely different environment, right? They've moved countries. They live with different people, with different lifestyle, with different job, and that's how everything sort of naturally. That's the only. I keep saying that. That is the only time that I've known someone to just lose weight without trying, is because the environment and lifestyle was such a drastic change that, again, the eating changed with it, but it was less focused on the change in eating because so many things changed that their entire life was in flux.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm already thinking of someone who did that, and they moved from Canada to Mexico and lost a ton of weight. And okay. So that case, yes, I don't know. Well, they haven't told me exactly what their thought process was, but you're right. You have to literally immerse yourself in an entirely different environment for that to work in a way where it's not a conscious effort. So I'm thinking exactly how many calories.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, because if you're staying in the environment that caused you to gain weight, well, if you just keep doing what you do in that environment, you're always fighting. The fact that you gained weight wherever you live and whatever you do right now is evidence that environment causes you to gain weight, because you're gaining weight.
That's why losing weight's so hard, because you're not changing the environment. You're fighting it for months, right?
Right.
So if everyone had the financial freedom and lifestyle freedom to just get up and move from, I don't know, North America to Portugal or something like that, it might be a lot easier. But since we don't have that, chances are you're trying to lose weight with the Same kids, same spouse, same job, same friends, same habits, same house, everything the same, except now you're going to try to
Mhm.
shift the volume down on how much you eat. That's why it's difficult.
You know, it'd be a good thought experiment for anyone who has lost weight without ever thinking about it. Can you remember how that happened? Were you? My guess is you must have been in a unique situation. You were removed from your normal environment for a little while. Let us know. Like, has that ever happened where you found yourself for a number of weeks, a number of months in a different situation, maybe living under somebody else's completely different routine? You're like, yeah, totally lost 20 pounds, moved back home and gained it all back. Like, just let us know, because from what I can tell, like Brad brought up a really good point. The only time it ever happens kind of on accident without dedicated willpower and directed effort, you have to be immersed in an environment that leads you that direction, whether or not you want to go that way or think about it. It just leads you that way anyways.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So,
good spot.
not much else to say on this. Just it's weight loss is hard. It's going to if it feels like you're the only one, that's probably because you are in your situation. It's difficult. It's worth doing, but and we're always on your side here. We're, come back to the channel whenever you want to remind yourself we're always on your side for anything you want to do as far as changing the look and shape of your body. But if it feels tough, it is. So it's a big deal if you actually manage to succeed for any amount of weight loss, if it's a goal of yours.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. All right. Absolutely. So for Brad Pilon, I'm John Barbin, and that's your Phi Life podcast.